Admiral Thera stood motionless on the bridge of the Viridian flagship Eternal Light, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft glow of countless holographic displays. The massive ship, powered by the most advanced antimatter reactors in known space, represented the pinnacle of Viridian technological achievement. For 3,000 years, the Viridian Alliance had reigned supreme among the stars, their mastery of antimatter technology unmatched across 12,000 light-years of space. Until now. Impossible, she whispered, watching the sensor readings with all four eyes. Run the scan again. First Officer Cal's tentacles wavered as he input the commands. Admiral, this is the 7th scan. The results remain consistent. The holographic display showed 3 vessels of unknown configuration approaching Viridian space, but it was their method of approach that had the bridge crew stunned into silence. The ships seemed to phase in and out of reality itself, leaving no energy signature, no warped space, no indication of conventional propulsion. They're utilizing some form of dark matter drive, Senior Scientist Vex announced, his voice trembling with both fear and excitement. They're not pushing against space-time like our antimatter drives. They're sliding between its layers. The implications were staggering. The Viridian Alliance had theorized about dark matter propulsion for centuries, but had dismissed it as impossible, focusing instead on perfecting antimatter technology. Yet here was living proof that someone had not only made it work, but had mastered it to a degree that made their most advanced sensors struggle to track the approaching vessels. We're being hailed, Cal announced. The signal. It's coming through our quantum-encrypted channels. Admiral Thera felt her scales ripple with surprise. The quantum encryption network was considered unbreakable, developed through centuries of research. Open the channel, she ordered, straightening her ceremonial armor. The holographic communicator shimmed to life, revealing a figure that caused murmurs of shock across the bridge. The being looked remarkably simple in design, bipedal with only 2 eyes and no apparent natural defenses. A human. Greetings, Admiral Thera, the human said, speaking perfect Viridian standard. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Expeditionary Force. We apologize for any alarm our approach may have caused. Thera's inner eyelids flickered rapidly as she processed this development. Humans were known to the Alliance, of course, a species that had achieved faster than light travel barely 2 centuries ago. They were considered a minor power, interesting primarily for their unusual rate of technological development, but not seen as a significant force in galactic politics. Captain Chen, Thera responded, maintaining her diplomatic composure despite her shock. Your method of arrival is unexpected. Our records indicate that human ships utilize conventional fusion drives. Chen smiled slightly. Your records are outdated, Admiral. We've made some advances in recent years. The dark matter drive is just one of them. Impossible, Vex interjected, unable to contain himself. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical if you approached it from an antimatter perspective. Chen finished for him. But dark matter doesn't play by the same rules. We didn't try to force it into existing scientific frameworks. We learned to work with its natural properties instead. As if to demonstrate, one of the human ships simply vanished, reappearing instantly on the other side of the eternal light. There had been no acceleration, no movement through space. It had simply ceased to exist in one location and begun existing in another. How long? Thera asked, her military mind already calculating the strategic implications. How long have you possessed this capability? Chen's expression grew more serious. Long enough to know that we need to talk, Admiral. We've detected something in the spaces between reality where our ships travel. Something ancient, something waiting. And we believe the Viridian Alliance's antimatter expertise may be crucial to understanding what it is. Thera felt the weight of history shifting around her. In a single conversation, everything the Alliance thought they knew about their place in the galaxy, about the hierarchy of civilizations, about the very nature of space travel itself, had been upended. Perhaps, she said carefully, we should continue this discussion in person. Chen nodded. Agreed. And Admiral, what we've shown you today is just the beginning. The real revelations are yet to come. As the communication ended, Thera gazed out at the human vessels, their forms shifting like shadows in starlight. The Viridian Alliance had always prided itself on knowing the boundaries of the possible. Now those boundaries had not just been pushed, they had been completely rewritten. The age of certainty was over. The era of dark matter had begun. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Viridian Alliance had never hosted anything quite like this. The vast circular room, with its soaring antimatter-powered crystalline walls that normally pulsed with a steady blue light, now flickered erratically in response to the dark matter distortions emanating from the human delegation's equipment. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the most powerful members of the Viridian Alliance. Her simple black uniform seemed almost primitive compared to the ornate biomechanical armor worn by the Viridian leadership, but there was nothing primitive about the holographic display she had just activated. "This," she said, gesturing to the three-dimensional map floating above her, "is what our dark matter sensors detected 3 months ago." The display showed what appeared to be a web of darkness spreading through the space between galaxies, visible only because it occasionally absorbed the light from distant stars. Admiral Thera leaned forward, her scales shifting to a deeper shade of blue. "And you believe this phenomenon is conscious?" "We know it is." Chen's voice carried absolute certainty. "When our ships travel through dark matter space, we can feel it thinking. At first, we thought we were experiencing hallucinations, a side effect of dark matter exposure. But then we started recording patterns, complex, repeating sequences that couldn't be natural." Senior Scientist Vex moved closer to the display, his sensory tentacles extended fully. "Impossible. Dark matter is merely a theoretical construct to explain gravitational anomalies. It cannot support consciousness." Chen smiled. "Just like dark matter couldn't be used for propulsion." She touched a control on her wrist, and suddenly the holographic display transformed. Now it showed the internal workings of a human dark matter drive, but in a way that made several Viridian scientists gasp audibly. "You've created a synthetic neural network," Vex whispered, his voice trembling. "But instead of using conventional quantum computers, we're using dark matter itself as the computing medium," Chen confirmed. "The same way you use antimatter plasma for your computational cores. But dark matter offers something antimatter doesn't: the ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously, not just matter and antimatter." The implications hit Admiral Thera like a physical force. "Your ships, they're not just vessels. They're alive, in a manner of speaking." Chen gestured, and the hologram shifted again, showing the neural patterns of a human dark matter drive interacting with the vast web they detected. And they've detected something else that's alive out there. Something old. Something that's been waiting. The chamber erupted in discussion, hundreds of Viridian voices creating a harmonic that made the crystalline walls vibrate. Chen waited patiently until Admiral Thera called for silence. "Why tell us this?" Thera asked. "Why reveal such advanced technology to a potential rival?" "Because we need you," Chen replied simply. "Whatever this entity is, it's been dormant for millions of years, possibly billions. But it's waking up now, and we think we know why." She paused, looking directly at Vex. "Your latest antimatter experiments, the ones you've been conducting in secret at the edge of the galaxy." Vex's tentacles coiled tightly against his body, a sign of extreme distress in Viridian body language. "How could you possibly know about those?" "Dark matter permeates everything," Chen explained. "Our ships can sense disturbances in it across vast distances. Your experiments are creating ripples we can detect. And if we can detect them, the entity can as well," Thera finished, her military mind quickly grasping the implications. "You think our antimatter research is rousing it?" Chen nodded. "More than that. We think the combination of our dark matter technology and your antimatter expertise might be the key to communicating with it. Or," she hesitated, defending against it if necessary. Defending. Thera's scales shifted to a warning red. You believe it's hostile. We don't know, Chen admitted, but we've translated enough of its neural patterns to know it's powerful, incredibly powerful, and it seems particularly interested in civilizations that have mastered fundamental forces like antimatter and dark matter. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Viridian Alliance had prided itself on its antimatter technology, seeing it as the pinnacle of scientific achievement. Now they were faced with humans who had taken an entirely different path, mastering the mysterious realm of dark matter. And both approaches combined had apparently drawn the attention of something ancient and unimaginably powerful. If what you're saying is true, Thera said slowly, then both our civilizations could be in danger. Yes, Chen agreed. But together, we might also be the only ones capable of facing what's coming. Your mastery of antimatter, our understanding of dark matter. Apart, we're vulnerable. Together, she let the thought hang in the air. Admiral Thera looked around the chamber, at the faces of her fellow Viridians, then back at the human captain who had appended their understanding of the universe. In 3,000 years of history, the Alliance had never faced a situation quite like this. Tell us everything you know about this entity, Thera said finally, and we'll tell you everything we know about antimatter. It seems we have a great deal to learn from each other. Chen smiled, but there was no triumph in it, only grim determination. We'll need to learn fast, Admiral, because if our calculations are correct, we don't have much time. The entity isn't just stirring now. It's awakening, and it's heading straight for both our civilizations. The integration bay of the eternal light hummed with the conflicting energies of antimatter and dark matter technologies. What had once been a standard maintenance facility had been transformed into something unprecedented. The first joint human-Viridian laboratory. Banks of antimatter containment fields pulsed with brilliant blue light, while patches of space seemed to fold in on themselves as dark matter drives underwent calibration. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, Earth's leading dark matter physicist, stood before a holographic display that showed the increasingly disturbing readings from deep space. Beside her, senior scientist Vex's tentacles moved in complex patterns as he attempted to correlate the data with his own antimatter sensors. The entity's neural patterns are becoming more organized, Maya noted, highlighting a particular sequence in the display. See these rhythmic pulses? They're no longer random. It's like it's waking up and becoming aware of its surroundings. Vex finished. His tentacles coiled tightly. A gesture Maya had learned indicated deep concern. The amplitude of these patterns has increased by 300% in just the past week. Admiral Thera and Captain Chen entered the lab, their earlier diplomatic formality replaced by the urgency of their shared crisis. Show us, Thera commanded. Maya expanded the holographic display, revealing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. A massive web of dark energy was clearly visible now, stretching across thousands of light years. At its center, a confluence of dark matter currents swirled in patterns that eerily resembled neural activity on a cosmic scale. We've managed to decode more of its thought patterns, Maya explained. By combining our dark matter sensors with Viridian antimatter detection arrays, we're getting a clearer picture. And she hesitated. Tell them, Vex urged, his usual scientific detachment cracking. It's not just one consciousness we're detecting, Maya continued. Based on the complexity and scale of the neural patterns, we believe this entity is a collective. Thousands, maybe millions of ancient beings who somehow transferred their consciousness into dark matter itself. How is that even possible? Thera demanded. Think about it, Chen interjected. Dark matter exists outside normal spacetime. It's not bound by the same laws of entropy and decay that govern ordinary matter. A civilization facing extinction might see it as the perfect medium for preservation. But preservation for what purpose? Vex asked. And why are they awakening now? Maya pulled up another display, this one showing the results of their joint experiments. We think we know. Look at what happens when we merge dark matter and antimatter fields. The display showed two energy patterns interweaving, creating complex geometric structures that seem to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. These patterns, Maya explained, they're almost identical to the neural signatures we're detecting from the entity. By the first dawn, Thera whispered, her scales paling. They were waiting for this, waiting for species to evolve that could manipulate both fundamental forces. But why? Chen pressed. A new alarm suddenly blared through the lab. Maya's hands flew across the controls as fresh data poured in. The entity, its activity just spiked again. But this time, her voice trailed off as she stared at the readings. It's trying to communicate, Vex announced, his tentacles writhing with excitement. These patterns, they're too ordered, too specific to be random activity. Maya nodded. And it's using a combination of dark matter and antimatter frequencies. Like it knew we'd eventually figure out how to combine them. Like it's been waiting for exactly this moment. Can you decode it? Thera and Chen asked simultaneously. We're trying, Maya replied. But the complexity is staggering. It's not just sending data, it's transmitting what appears to be pure consciousness, pure thought. We'd need to. Her eyes widened as an idea struck her. What is it? Chen demanded, recognizing the look on her science officer's face. The neural interfaces in our dark matter drives, Maya said slowly. And your antimatter computational cores. She turned to Vex. If we linked them together, created a hybrid system capable of processing both forms of energy simultaneously, we could potentially receive and decode their transmission directly. Vex finished, his tentacles moving in patterns of rapid calculation. But the risks, merging these technologies on that scale, could either give us the breakthrough we need, Chen said, or tear this ship apart at the quantum level. Thera finished grimly. They all stared at the holographic display, watching as the entity's neural patterns grew steadily more complex and organized. Whatever ancient consciousness was awakening out there, it was clearly reaching out to them with purpose. The question was, were they about to establish first contact with a long-lost civilization that had transcended physical form, or had they drawn the attention of something far more dangerous? Begin the interface integration, Thera ordered finally. But be ready to shut it down at the first sign of trouble. We need answers, but not at the cost of this ship and everyone on it. As Maya and Vex began the delicate work of merging their civilization's technologies, new alarms began to sound. The entity's neural patterns were changing again, becoming even more focused and directed. Whatever message it was trying to send, whatever knowledge or warning it was trying to convey, they were about to find out if their civilizations were truly ready to receive it. The merged interface chamber aboard the Eternal Light thrummed with power as antimatter containment fields intersected with dark matter corridors in precisely calculated patterns. Dr. Maya Rodriguez and senior scientist Vex had worked for 72 hours straight to create something unprecedented in the history of either civilization. A hybrid consciousness receiver capable of processing both fundamental forces simultaneously. Interface stabilization at 87%. Maya announced, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that shifted between normal space and dark matter phases. Neural pathway synchronization holding steady. Vex's tentacles moved in harmonic patterns as he monitored the antimatter flows. Quantum coherence maintained. We're ready to attempt first contact. Admiral Thera and Captain Chen stood at the chamber's periphery, watching as their civilization's technologies merged into something entirely new. The walls of the chamber seemed to pulse between states of existence, regions of space folding in impossible ways as dark matter and antimatter energies intertwined. The entity's neural patterns are aligning with our broadcast frequency, Maya reported. It's responding to the hybrid signal. We're about to. Reality shifted. The chamber, the ship, even space itself seemed to fade away. In their place was consciousness, pure, vast, ancient consciousness that existed in the spaces between spaces, in the void between galaxies, in the dark matter that permeated the universe itself. We have waited so long. The thought came, not in words, but in pure concepts that bloomed directly in their minds. So long for species to evolve who could bridge the gap between light and dark, between matter and void. Who? What are you? Chen managed to think back, her human mind struggling to process communication on this level. We were the first ones, came the response. We achieved technological singularity 1 billion years ago, transcending physical form to preserve ourselves in the dark matter substrate of reality itself. But in doing so, we discovered something terrible. Images flooded their minds, galaxies dying, reality itself fraying at the edges, entropy accelerating beyond all natural laws. The universe was winding down far faster than it should, consumed by something that existed in the supposedly empty void between galaxies. The Great Void, Vex thought, his scientific mind grasping the concept. You're talking about the regions of space where even dark matter seems absent. Yes, it is not absent. It is consumed by them. New images, vast, incomprehensible entities that existed in dimensions beyond normal spacetime, feeding on the fundamental forces of reality itself. They had been dormant, hibernating in the void between galaxies for billions of years. But now, they're waking up, Thera realized, her military mind immediately grasping the strategic implications. Why now? Your civilizations, the entity communicated. Your manipulation of antimatter and dark matter, it is like a beacon to them. The same way it drew our attention. But where we seek to warn, to preserve, they seek only to consume. Maya's scientific mind raced with calculations. The antimatter experiments, our dark matter drives. We've been announcing our presence across the cosmos without realizing it. Worse, the entity conveyed. You have demonstrated that this galaxy has evolved species capable of manipulating fundamental forces. They will come not just for you, but for all life in this galaxy. How do we stop them? Chen demanded. You cannot, not as you are, but together. The entity's thoughts shifted, conveying complex scientific principles that merged antimatter and dark matter technologies in ways neither civilization had imagined. We preserved ourselves in dark matter to wait, to watch, to guide. What we learned in 1 billion years of consciousness evolution, we offer freely, but you must choose quickly. Through their merged consciousness, they all saw it. Vast shapes stirring in the void between galaxies, ancient and hungry, drawn by the light of civilization. The entity showed them calculations, probabilities, timelines. 3 months. Maya whispered as their consciousness returned to normal space. We have 3 months before they arrive. Can it be done? Thera asked, looking at her chief scientist. Can we implement these changes to our technologies in time? Vex's tentacles moved in rapid calculation patterns. The principles the entity showed us, they're beyond anything we theorized. But with both our civilizations working together, with the knowledge they've given us, he turned to Maya. It would require full integration of our technologies, not just cooperation, true merger. The politics alone would be nightmarish, Chen noted. Sharing our most advanced technologies, our deepest secrets. The politics won't matter if we're all consumed by void entities, Thera countered. She turned to Maya and Vex. Begin the integration. Full access to all our technological databases, all our research, Captain Chen. Chen nodded grimly. Same from us. Full disclosure, full cooperation. She managed a slight smile. Humanity and the Viridian Alliance, working together to save the galaxy. Not quite how we imagined first contact going. Through the hybrid interface, they could still feel the ancient entity's presence, watching, waiting to share more of its billion years of accumulated knowledge. But they could feel something else too, growing stronger with each passing moment. The hunger of things stirring in the void, drawn by the light of civilization, approaching with dreadful inevitability. The race to save the galaxy had begun. The combined fleet of human and Viridian ships hung in formation at the edge of the Carina Void, their merged technologies creating ripples in the fabric of space-time itself. Each vessel now incorporated both antimatter cores and dark matter drives, their systems integrated in ways that would have seemed impossible just 3 months ago. Admiral Theras stood on the bridge of the Eternal Light, which had been transformed into something entirely new. Where once crystalline antimatter conduits had pulsed with pure energy, now they phased between states of existence, dark matter streams interweaving with antimatter flows in precise geometric patterns. Multiple void entities detected, Dr. Maya Rodriguez announced from her station, where holographic displays showed both normal space and dark matter readings simultaneously. 5. No, 7 of them. Massive. Each one larger than our entire fleet combined. Through the hybrid consciousness interface they'd developed, everyone on the bridge could feel them. Vast intelligences stirring in the void, ancient beyond comprehension, hungry for the fundamental forces that powered their civilizations. They're accelerating, senior scientist Vex reported, his tentacles moving in patterns of increasing agitation. Emergence in normal space in 30 seconds. Captain Chen's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute Formation Phoenix. Remember your training. Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment. The fleet moved with perfect coordination, ships sliding through dark matter streams, while antimatter drives created precise gravitational lenses. They were no longer just human vessels or Viridian ships. They were something new, something that incorporated the strengths of both civilizations. Space itself seemed to tear open as the void entities emerged. They defied description, existing in more dimensions than the human or Viridian mind could properly process. Through the hybrid interface, the fleet's crews felt their ancient hunger, their vast intelligence, their utter alienness. Such tiny LIGTs, the thought boomed through their minds. But BRIGT innovative to draw us from our slumber. Now, Thera commanded. The fleet's merged technology activated. Dark matter streams and antimatter beams combined in precisely calculated patterns, creating geometric structures in space-time itself. The knowledge given to them by the first ones guided their every move. But you are not simply burning. The void entities communicated, their vast consciousness pressing against the fleet's defenses. UAV Iliern he to WAV light and dark. Interesting. It will make your energy all the AEs we here to consume. Energy wave incoming, Maya shouted. The void entities struck, not with weapons, but with pure gravitational force, attempting to tear reality itself apart around the fleet. But where such an attack would have once been unstoppable, now the ship's phase shifted through dark matter, while their antimatter fields created stabilizing patterns in spacetime. Pattern Alpha, Chen ordered. Execute the resonance cascade. Every ship in the fleet activated their hybrid cores simultaneously. Dark matter and antimatter energy merged in impossible ways, creating ripples in reality that matched the harmonic frequencies the first ones had discovered in their billion years of evolution. The void entities recoiled. Your light, it burns like the first ones, because they taught us how to fight you. Thera responded through the hybrid interface. Humanity's mastery of dark matter. The Viridian Alliance's control of antimatter. Apart, we were vulnerable. Together, we are your equals. EQUALS. The concept came with something like amusement. We are ETRNAL. We consumed galaxies. And yet you slept, Chen countered. You hid in the void between galaxies, feeding on scraps of energy, while life evolved and civilizations rose. You're not gods. You're just ancient predators who've never faced prey that could fight back. The void entities struck again, this time with the full force of their power. Space twisted, reality buckled. Fundamental forces began to break down, but the fleet was ready. Final sequence. Maya and Vex announced simultaneously. Quantum resonance at maximum. Every ship in the fleet channeled their combined energy into a single, synchronized burst. Dark matter streams and antimatter beams wove together in patterns the first ones had discovered, creating a new form of energy that existed in perfect balance between light and dark, matter and void. The void entities screamed in frequencies that shook the cosmos. The attack wasn't designed to destroy them. Nothing could destroy something so vast and ancient, but it forced them back into their natural state, their consciousness scattered across the dark matter substrate of space itself. You cannot maintain this, the thought came. Weaker now. We will worry to earn. And we'll be waiting, Thera responded. Not just humanity and the Viridian Alliance, but every civilization in this galaxy. We'll share what we've learned, help them evolve, prepare them to face you. The age of easy prey is over. Through the hybrid interface, they felt the void entities withdraw, retreating to the spaces between galaxies. Not defeated. Nothing could truly defeat such ancient beings, but denied their prey for the first time in eons. As the fleet regrouped, Admiral Thera looked at the human and Viridian crew working side by side on her bridge. What had begun as a shocking first contact had evolved into something unprecedented. Two civilizations not just cooperating, but truly merging their understanding of the universe. The void entities will return eventually, Chen noted, her image appearing on the bridge's holographic display. And we'll be ready, Thera responded. The knowledge the first ones gave us, the fusion of our technologies. This is just the beginning. Through their hybrid consciousness, they could still feel the first ones watching with approval as their civilizations took the first steps toward an evolution they had achieved 1 billion years ago. The void between galaxies was no longer empty and lifeless. It was filled with consciousness, with knowledge, with potential. The age of isolation was over. The era of true unity had begun.